Thank you for joining me on the Endless Mountain Network. Today is Saturday, February 7th, 2009. In this video I want to talk about unemployment rate in Canada, trying to figure out what the media says, a little bit more on the jobless stuff, and the Mayan Calendar. Okay, so I'm going to start in that order. I wrote some information down from a video that I watched. I'm going to put a link in the more info button, whether it'll work for a few days, whether it'll work whenever, I don't know. The first video that will come up will be President Obama coming to Canada, but it's the video that plays after that, which would be about this. And I don't understand some of the numbers because I've always said on here, I mean, it's really tough to believe mainstream media. This information comes from mainstream media. And I'll tell you why here, based on mathematics that a simple grade 5 person could figure out. Alrighty, so anyway, 129,000 jobs were lost in the country of Canada in the month of January alone. No surprise, Christmas ends in December. More jobs are being lost in January. Okay, so 129,000 into 31 million people. If that number is correct, I mean, I question what I read. If anything, I think it would be higher, but nonetheless, we'll just say it's that number there. If it is in fact 129,000, dividing it by 31 million means 1 of every 240 Canadians lost their job. And of that sector, the big 3 provinces, this is how the big 3 fared out based on population, that is. Actually, it might be, they talk 3 of the 4. I think Alberta would be a big 3 province. I'm not sure. But anyway, Ontario's a big 3 province. They got 11 million people. They lost 71,000 jobs. That's 1 of every 161 people. Quebec is part of the big 3. They lost 26,000 jobs. And they have 7.2 million people. So that's 1 of every 278, and I don't know if BC or Alberta would be part of the big 3, which one it would be, but they mentioned BC, and only BC. They lost 35,000, which for 4 million people in the province would be 1 of every 112. That, of course, would be the most extreme. And they also said that Saskatchewan actually gained jobs, meaning they had more than they started with. So now let's do some simple math. So they said that 129,000 jobs were lost. 71,000 in Ontario, 35,000 in BC, and 26,000 in Quebec. 71 adding 35 would be 106. 106 adding 26 would be 132. So you're saying that 129,000 jobs were lost in Canada, and that 132,000 of them are amongst those 3 provinces, meaning apparently if this numbers were true, that means there would have been 3,000 jobs gained in the Northwest Territories, the Atlantic provinces, and the Prairies. I have a hard time believing that. I know Alberta is probably the #1 province in Ontario or in Canada, but once again, I don't know what they would have lost that month. I'm not too sure, but it just makes it really difficult to believe what the mainstream media is trying to say. Let me just say some quick things that also the things they're saying. They're saying that the unemployment rate is now 7.2% as of January. I have a hard time believing it because 1, how they calculate it. 2, I mean, you got a job at Walmart for 14, 20 hours a week and they say you're employed. You're making $8.50, $9.50 an hour or something. That to me is not employed. But once again, that's how they seem to count it, because back in the 50s and 60s and 70s when they counted unemployment, you either pretty much worked full-time or you didn't work at all, I think. I'm thinking, I don't know, but I just think this whole part-time stuff has went a lot more. Obviously they do it so they don't have to pay you benefits. Once again, that's a negativity. And they obviously do it so that, I don't know, maybe they want to just make people poor in the sense of wanting the poor to get poorer and rich getting richer. That's why Walmart is doing it. Hey, Walmart has 2.1 million employees according to Google. And how many of those 2.1 million employees do you think are part-time, are unhappy with their position, so on and so on and so on. Okay, so it also said that 29,000 people gave up looking for employment this month. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, do you blame them? And they're also saying that the risk of having 10% or more employment is quite frankly extremely high. And once again, 10% by the end of the year, we're already over it. We're already over it. Yeah, they're going to say what they want to say. It's up to you if you want to trust mainstream media. This came from CBC.ca, Canadian Broadcasting Company, one of our TV channels, just like the Americans, NBC or ABC type channel. So, I mean, I'm going to take it for that. So now, based on the Mayan calendar now, did the Mayan calendars predict it? Because based on what I talk about the Mayan calendar, it is the shift in consciousness. What they talk about consciousness at this time, they would be talking about the end of power. We're talking about finding out truth and moving into the age of love. That's what the Mayan calendars are talking about at this time. So now we're getting rid of power. Of course, all these businesses and industries is the power that they have. The government's power to enslave us. So that is collapsing. So yeah, it's no surprise. And quite frankly, I mean, jobs to me is not just, it's just another part of slavery right now. So, I mean, they're talking about how much of a bad thing it is that we're seeing all these jobs being destroyed when, quite frankly, in my personal opinion, it really stops people from finding out who they are and creating the reality in which it is that they want to create. So, to me, this is all part of the 2012 prophecies that we're just going to see a lot more than this. I mean, it's almost like watching the movie The Titanic. You're seeing that, oh, by the way, we think the boat is going to be, we think the boat might be, something's wrong with the boat. Boom, you think that's one of the first things. There's a little bit of panic, nothing too major. Next thing you know, you find out, oh, by the way, guys, the boat's going to sink. We only got like an hour, we got a couple hours, blah, blah, blah. Boom. Now it's the same thing. Oh, by the way, it's about to sink. We got a few years, we got a few months, but everything's going to sink. That's something about the same type of theory. So now it's all apparently if you can get on the lifeboats or not, I guess you could say. But nonetheless, it just means that the Mayans are talking about the moving into the truth age. We're finding out the truth about the control that the government has been trying to do. And to me, this is just one part of the control in which the government has been trying to do. Part of the whole enslavement issues. How do we get out of enslavement? I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure over the next little while we'll find out innovative ways to get away from it. But this to me needs to be done. It truly needs to be done because right now we're living in a system where the rich get richer, poor getting poorer, and we got to destroy that. We totally got to destroy that. And having these businesses collapse, which ultimately means job losses, to me is the only way. It is part of what some people call the death pains of the death of the dark ages that are coming into play with this Mayan calendar. So, you know what, just let it happen. Let it happen. Accept it for happening. Accept the fact we have to see people lose jobs. And now if you are one that has lost your job or one that you may lose your job, whatever you can do to keep yourself happy and finding out who you are is right now one of the best things that you can do. But we've seen 129,000 job losses. We'll see how this goes. One more thing I'd like to say is that at the end of January, I took about 300 or 400 companies from different sectors, and I've calculated based on what Google says how many employees they have, and at the end of every month I'm going to make some data on a spreadsheet and see what kind of statistics that I can come up with. But just like what I was telling you from Statistics Canada on CBC.ca, I'm getting information from mainstream media and you gotta take it from that. So what can you do? Anyway, peace and light, everyone. Thank you for watching and have yourself a magnificent day, everyone. Bye-bye.